Hello, and welcome to Willow Oak Books. My name is Lunar, and I'll be your storyteller today. Glad to have you with me, and I hope you enjoyed the story. If you appreciate our content, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Now, on with the story. This is a very old book. Captain Kangaroo's Read Aloud book. So, this is Captain Kangaroo's Read Aloud book. Pictures by Aurelius Battaglia. Probably really did not do well on that name. This is a book of short stories. Story 1. All the seas were one sea. If all the seas were one sea, what a great sea that would be. And if all the trees were one tree, what a great tree that would be. And if all the axes were one axe, what a great axe that would be. And if all the men were one man, what a great man that would be. And if the great man took the great axe and cut down the great tree, and let it fall into the great sea, what a great splash that would be. By Mother Goose. The Blow-Away Hat by Leone Adelson. Mother and Daddy and David were getting ready to go for a walk. Mother put on her new hat with the buttercups and daisies and red roses on it. "Do you like my new hat?" she asked. "Very pretty," Daddy said. David said, "It's beautiful, Mommy." When they went out, Daddy said, "Button your coat, David. It's a windy day." "I like the wind," said David. "It blows down my neck and tickles." "So do I like the wind," Mommy added. "It blows my clothes on the wash line dry and dries them quickly." "I guess I like it too," Daddy said. "It blew the clouds away this morning so the sun could shine for us." "Can the wind blow everything, Daddy?" David asked as he skipped along. "Oh, no," replied Daddy. "It can't blow its nose." And everybody laughed. Suddenly the flowers on Mummy's hat began to nod. The roses shook their head at the daisies. Daisies waved at the buttercups. The buttercups swayed back and forth. The wind blew a little harder, and the flowers danced a little faster and faster, and off into the air sailed Mommy's hat. "Oh!" cried Mommy. "No!" But the wind blew and the hat flew, and no one could think of a thing to do. "Why don't you fly with me?" the hat called to David. "Look, just spread your petals, and the wind will carry you along too." But David didn't hear because the wind blew too hard. "Here I go," called the hat, turning a somersault. "I can't wait for you. Goodbye." "I'll catch it for you, Mommy," David shouted, and he ran and jumped as high as he could. "I have it!" he cried. And he almost caught it. But just then the wind swept up and stole the hat away from David's fingers. "Sail along with me, hat," sang the wind. "I'll spin you like a feather." "Whee! Watch me! I'm an airplane!" shouted the hat, and it made a flip-flop in the air. "My, that was exciting! I think I'll swoop." And down it swooped, and up it scooped, and suddenly it looped the loop right under David's nose. He grabbed at it with both hands, but the wind rushed over and stole the hat right away from David's fingers. A delivery boy came riding by on his bicycle. "I'll get it for you. I can ride faster than that wind," the delivery boy said, and he raced swiftly down the street after the hat, with David running after him. The wind took a deep breath and blew the hat as high as a chimney. "How's that, my happy hat?" puffed the wind. "Oh, whirl us and twirl us some more," begged the flowers. But just then some black smoke puffed out of a tall chimney. "Have to blow that smoke away. Blow it away," panted the wind. "Work to do, work to do." And away roared the wind. "Oh, I'm falling," wailed the hat. And into a tailspin it went, down to the sidewalk. "Come on," shouted the delivery boy. "We've got it now." But just as they reached the hat, whoosh, whirled the wind back again. "Woo!" went the wind. What about some more fun, hat?" "Up you go." And it snatched the hat off the sidewalk tossed it down the street, and blew it around the corner. David and the delivery boy hurried after it as fast as they could go, but when they turned the corner, there was no hat. "Too bad," said the delivery boy sadly. "It's gone. We better go back." "Oh, no," declared David. "That was my mommy's new hat. I must find it." In the middle of the street, there was a manhole. A little sign stood beside it. It read, "Men Working." A policeman stood close by, watching to see that the automobiles did not roll too close to the hole. David waited until the policeman blew his whistle and held up his hand to stop the traffic. Then he ran to the edge of the manhole. It looked very dark down there. "Here now," said the policeman. "Don't be getting too close to the edge." "I just want my mommy's hat back," said David. The policeman laughed. "Why, there's nothing down there but Tom fixing the water pipes." "Oh, no," replied David. "I'm sure my mommy's hat is down there." "Well," answered the policeman, "we'll ask Tom about that. Tom, come on up." "Hey, up there," yelled the man in the manhole. "Something fell on my head. Feels like a bunch of flowers. Stand back, everyone. I'm coming up." In a moment, David saw some daisies peep over the edge of the manhole. Then roses and buttercups showed their heads. Just below the flowers appeared Tom's surprised face. The policeman took one look at Tom and laughed a big ha ha ha. A big truck driver leaned out of his red truck and took a look at Tom, and he laughed a deep ho ho ho. A lady driver leaned out of her car window to look at Tom, and she laughed a little ha ha ha. But David didn't laugh at Tom. He was too happy at finding Mommy's hat. He said, "Thank you, Tom, for helping me." "That's okay," replied Tom. "I didn't do anything except catch the hat on my head. You found it all by yourself." "Thank you, Mr. Policeman, for helping me catch Mommy's hat," said David. "That's all right," he replied. "I didn't do anything except stop the traffic. Well, you found it all by yourself." David ran to the delivery boy. "I've got Mommy's hat back again. Thank you for helping me," he said. "Don't mention it," replied the boy. "But I didn't do anything except help you run. After all, you found it all by yourself." David ran all the way back to Mommy and Daddy. They were very proud of him. As he handed Mommy her pretty hat, the wind tiptoed back and tried to steal it away from David again. "Silly hat," whispered the wind, tugging at the flowers. "Such a nice day for a spin. Come on, don't stay here." But this time, David heard the wind. "Oh, no," he laughed. "I've got you tight, hat, and this time I won't let you go." Captain Andy's Houseboat by Alice Lowe. I like to be the captain of a houseboat all my own. I'd anchor near a river pier and live there all alone. I'd paint her name across her bow and hang a sign outside saying Andy's boat, the best afloat, a nickel for a ride. I'd start the engine, steer her out, the tiller in my hand, and I'd call out loud to all the crowd, the sights on sea and land. That drawbridge is the longest one in all these parts, I'm told. And that island there, a pirate's lair, where they used to hide their gold. There's a speedboat towing an aquaplane, and along the shore there's a streamlined train. There's a battleship and a powerful dredge, and fishnets drying by the river's edge. Then, when the trip was over, I would row the crowd ashore. They'd all be glad for the fun they'd had, and soon come back for more. Sometimes I'd be busy, a-varnishin' the mast. I'd scrub the floors and paint the doors, and fish for shad and bass. I'd fix the rope in a nice neat coil. I'd grease the engine and put in oil. I'd scrape the barnacles off her keel and polish the brass on her steering wheel. Sometimes I'd be lazy and watch the seagulls fly, or sit in the sun when the work was done and see the boats go by. On rainy days in my cabin I'd hear the ferries toot, and the clang, clang, clang as the bell buoy rang, and the long, loud foghorns hoot. When I'd stand on deck on a starlit night, I would see the lighthouse flash its light, and the bridge aglow like a string of pearls, and the carousel lights go round in whirls. Then I'd lie in bed in my bunk below, and the wind would rock me to and fro, and I'd fall asleep to the soothing sound of the waves lapping all around. The Little Old Woman Who Used Her Head and How She Got a Feather Bed by Hope Newell. The little old woman had only one blanket, and it was full of holes. I must get a new blanket before winter comes, she said. Or better yet, I might buy a feather bed. How warm and cozy I would be in a feather bed on cold winter nights. But feather beds cost a lot of money, so the little old woman bought a flock of geese instead. As she was driving them home from the market, she said to herself, "These 12 geese will lay eggs for me all summer. Then, when winter comes, I'll clip their feathers and make myself a feather bed. What a clever old woman I am!" When the little old woman arrived home, she drove the geese into the yard and closed the gate. Then she ate her supper and went to bed. The next morning she heard a great noise in the yard. When she opened the door, the geese came running to her. "Honk, honk," said the big gander, flapping his wings. "Honk, honk," said the other geese, flapping their wings. Everywhere she went, the 12 geese followed her, saying, "Honk, honk," and flapping their wings. "Dear me," said the little old woman, "I do believe they want something to eat. I must buy them some corn." So she went to the market and bought a bag of corn for the geese. Every morning when she opened the door, the geese came running to her. "Honk, honk," they said, flapping their wings. Then she remembered to give them some corn. The geese ate so much corn that pretty soon the little old woman had to go buy another bag of corn. After a while, that bag was empty too. She had to go and buy another bag of corn. "These geese eat a lot of corn," she said. "But after all, they are growing bigger and bigger. Their feathers growing thicker and thicker. They will make me a fine feather bed when the winter comes." By and by, the nights began to grow cold. The red flannel blanket was so full of holes that it did not keep the little old woman warm. She shivered all night long. "Winter will soon be here," she thought. "It is high time I clipped the geese and made my feather bed." The next morning she went out to clip the geese. "How warm and contented they look," said the little old woman. "They will be cold if I clip their feathers. Maybe if I cut the holes out of my red blanket, it'll be warm enough for me." But when she fetched her scissors and cut the holes out of her red blanket, the holes were still there. In fact, they were bigger than ever. "What am I to do?" she thought. "If I take the feathers, the geese will be cold. If I do not take their feathers, I will be cold. I suppose I had better use my head." And here is how the little old woman used her head. First, she tied a wet towel around her forehead. Then she sat down with her forefinger against her nose and shut her eyes. She used her head, and used her head, and used her head. She used her head so long that it began to ache. But she finally knew what to do. "The red blanket is no good to me," she said. "I will cut it into 12 pieces and make each of the geese a warm red coat. Then I can clip their feathers to make me a feather bed." The little old woman set to work and made each of the geese a little red coat. On each coat she sewed 3 shiny brass buttons. "Now I must clip the geese and make my feather bed," said the little old woman. She took a basket and went out to clip the geese. She clipped the big gander and put his feathers in the basket. She clipped the gray goose and put her feathers in the basket. Then she clipped the other geese and put their feathers in the basket. When all the geese were clipped, the little old woman put a little red coat on each goose and fastened it with the shiny brass buttons. "How handsome these geese look," she said. "I was very clever to think of making the little red coats to keep them warm." Then she carried the basket of feathers into the house, and she sewed them into a strong tickling to make a feather bed. When the bed was all finished, the little old woman said to herself, "I shall sleep very warm this winter. How wise I was to buy a flock of geese to make a feather bed. It all comes from using my head." The Teeny Tiny Omelet by Rose Dobbs. Once upon a time there was a teeny tiny old woman who lived in a teeny tiny old house. She had a teeny tiny hen, and one day the hen laid a teeny tiny egg. "Oh, thank you very much," said the teeny tiny old woman. "I shall have a fine breakfast today." With a bit of butter and a few drops of milk and the egg, she made herself an omelet. But when she went to eat it, she found that it was too hot, so she put it on the windowsill to cool. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Along came a fly, and snap! He ate up the omelet. Just like that. Can you imagine what a teeny tiny omelet it was? Furious at the fly, the little old woman put on her bonnet and went off to the police station. "Good morning, Granny," said a policeman at the door. "What can I do for you?" The little old woman told him about her omelet and the fly who ate it up, and she demanded that the fly be arrested. The policeman laughed and laughed. "No omelet can be that tiny," he said, "and who ever heard of arresting a fly? I have no time for such nonsense. Please, go away." But the little old woman would not go away, so the policeman sent her to the sergeant. "Good morning, Granny," said the sergeant. "Can I do anything for you?" The little old woman told the sergeant about her omelet and the fly who ate it up. "I want that fly arrested at once," she said. The sergeant laughed and laughed. "No omelet can be that tiny," he said, "and who ever heard of arresting a fly? I'm much too busy for such nonsense. Go away, please." But the little old woman would not go away. So the sergeant telephoned the captain. "Sir," he said, "I have here a citizen who reports a robbery and demands an immediate arrest be made." "Then make it," snapped the captain. "Oh, but the thief is something out of the ordinary and will take some catching," said the sergeant. "I'm afraid the case is too hard for me to handle." "I'm not surprised." The captain, a proud and vain man, spoke sarcastically. "Any real work around here always has to be done by me. Send a citizen in." Although he was somewhat startled to find the citizen was a teeny tiny old woman, he listened to her story. When she had finished, he said to himself, "What nonsense! But I'll get rid of her." Then he told the little old woman that she was quite right. "The thief should be punished," he said, "but arresting them isn't enough. He must be taught a lesson. So here's a stout club. When next you see the fly, give him a good hard whack." The captain leaned over to hand her the club, and just then a fly alighted onto his nose. The little old woman thought it was the same fly that had eaten up her omelet, so whack! She brought the club down on the fly. "Oh, ouch!" yelled the captain, dancing up and down and holding his aching nose. "Serves you right," said the teeny tiny old woman, thinking it was the fly yelling. Then she straightened her bonnet and went home, quite satisfied that she had properly punished the fly who ate up her teeny tiny omelet. How Spot Found a Home by Lucy Sprague Mitchell. One day there was a cat. She was a black and white and yellow cat, and the boys on the street called her Spot, for she was a poor cat with no home but the street. When she wanted to sleep, she had to hunt for a dark, empty cellar. When she wanted to eat, she had to hunt for a garbage can. So poor Spot was very thin and very unhappy, and much of the time she prowled and yowled and howled. Now one day Spot was prowling along the fence in the alley. She wanted to find a home. She was saying to herself, "Meow, meow, I've no place to eat, I've no place to sleep, I've only the street. Meow, meow, meow." Then suddenly she smelled something. Sniff went her pink little nose. Spot knew it was smoke. She smelled. The smoke came out of the chimney of a house. "Where there's smoke, there's a fire," thought Spot, "and where there's a fire it is warm to lie." So she jumped down from the fence and on her little padded feet ran softly to the door. There she saw an empty milk bottle. "Where there are milk bottles, there is milk," thought Spot, "and where there's milk, it is good to drink." So she slipped in through the door. Inside was a warm, warm kitchen. Spot trotted softly to the front of the stove, and there she curled up. She was very happy. So she closed her eyes and began to sing. Purr, purr, curling up warm to a ball of fur. I close my eyes and purr and purr. Purr, 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 purr. Bang went the kitchen door. Spot opened one sleepy eye. In front of her stood a cross woman. The cross woman scowled. She picked up poor Spot and threw her out of the door, screaming, "Scat, scat, you old street cat! Scat, scat, and never come back!" With a bound, Spot jumped back to the fence. Meow, meow. I've no place to eat. I've no place to sleep. I've only the street. Meow, meow, meow. So she trotted along the fence. In a little while, sniff, went her little pink nose again. She smelled more smoke. She stopped by a house with 2 chimneys. The smoke came out of both chimneys. Where there are 2 fires, there must be room for me, thought Spot. She jumped off the fence and pattered to the door. By the door there were 2 empty milk bottles. Where there is so much milk, there will be some for me, thought Spot. But the door was shut tight. Spot ran to the window. It was open. In skipped Spot. There was another warm kitchen, and there was another stove. Spot trotted softly to the stove and curled up happy and warm. She closed her eyes and softly sang, purr, purr, curling up warm to a ball of fur. I close my eyes and purr, 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 purr. Psst! Hissed something close by. Spot leapt to her feet. Psst! She answered back. For there in front of her stood an enormous black cat. His back was humped, his hair stood on end, and his eyes gleamed, and his teeth showed white. Shh! Leave my rug! Shh! Leave my fire! Shh! Leave my milk! Shh! Leave my home! Spot gave one great jump out of the window and another great jump to the top of the fence, for Spot was little and thin, and that great black cat was strong and big. And he didn't want Spot in his home. Poor Spot trotted along the fence, thinking, meow, meow, I've no place to eat. I've no place to sleep. I've only the street. Meow, meow, meow. In a little while, she smelled smoke again. Sniff went her little pink nose. This time she stopped by a house with 3 chimneys. The smoke came out of all the chimneys. Where there are 3 fires, there must be room for me, thought Spot. So she jumped off the fence and pattered to the door. By the door there were 3 empty milk bottles. Where there is so much milk, there must be children, thought Spot. And then she began to feel happy, but the door was shut tight. She trotted to the window. The window was shut tight too. Then she saw some stairs. Up the stairs she trotted. There she found another door, and in she slipped. She heard a very pleasant sound. I, crickle-I, crackle-I, flicker-I, flare, I jump from nothing right into the air. There, on the hearth, burned an open fire with a warm rug right in front of it. On the rug was a little table, and on the table were 2 little mugs of milk. Spot curled up on the rug under the table and began to sing. Purr, purr, curling up warm to a ball of fur. I close my eyes and purr and purr. Purr, 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 purr. Pat, 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 pat. Spot heard some little feet coming. A little boy in a nightgown ran into the room. Look, he called, at the pretty spotted cat under our table. Then pat, 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 pat. And a little girl in a nightgown ran into the room. See, she called, the pussy has come to take supper with us. Then a little boy, quick as a wink, put a saucer on the floor and pulled some of his milk into it. And the little girl, quick as a wink, poured some of hers in it too. In and out, in and out, in and out, went Spot's pink tongue lapping up the milk. Then she sat up and washed her face very carefully. Then she curled up and closed her eyes and began to sing. That was her way of saying, thank you, little boy and little girl. I'm so glad I found a home. Purr, 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 purr. The end. You can find this book and many more online in your local bookstore or waiting for you to discover at your public library. Thank you for joining me, and happy reading.